Welcome everyone to build for my personal PC. Today I'm going to be building my own personal computer. So if you're gonna take this as a tutorial, go for it. So you're gonna need a screwdriver, thermal paste if you're reusing your own CPU cooler, and of course this. You don't need this. You just need a screwdriver. But I have this as an extra thing just in case I need it. So first thing we're gonna start with is, well, I just want to put this mat on because I don't want to scratch the table with anything, or my mother will kill me. So I'm gonna use my mouse pad this is like the Surface model. I got it for cheap. If you can like get anything from the store, always get like whatever they have on display and just get that. I know it's gonna be dusty or used or whatever, but it's gonna be way cheaper. This is gonna be like an ultra budget oriented PC, well, except for the graphics card because currently the prices are far too expensive, but I was able to get it for like an incredibly good deal, and I'll tell you why it was a good deal. So I'm just gonna start with the motherboard. It's gonna be a Ryzen based build, so I'm gonna start with this B450MS2H. This is like the best bang for the buck budget you can get for the time being, of course. So I need to open it. There's my razor. I'm just gonna slip this thing in there. Oh shoot. There we go. So this is almost perfect opening, but yeah, I've already opened it because I tested at the store. So this is the board. Of course, you'll be getting all of those extra papers and stuff. We don't need the manual because, well, I already did my research on this. So I'm going to put this box to the side. So this is it. Well, I got the PC, and of course I thought maybe I might need a license for it, but so sorry, I'm just going to get the box again. So I want to put it on top of it and build on it. Okay. Alright, so this is the board, as you can see. This is the CPU socket. This is the 8-pin connector for the CPU power, 24-pin for motherboard power, your PCIe slot, your M.2 slot. This is like my my OEM key, so I thought I should put it on my motherboard because it's an OEM key, so it's gonna permanently be a link to my motherboard. Of course, you got 4 SATA connections. You got this PCIe connection up here because this is really good for me and really important. The reason I chose this board because it has VRM cooling. This is a budget option for anyone who's like he wants an AMD build but doesn't want to spend that much on the board. I just want to remind you that if you can get one of these, you might want to like go to a computer shop and update its BIOS to the latest revision because it will really help. So for the back I/O, you get a PS2 connection, VGA, DVI, and of course HDMI. For USB 3.0 to USB 2.0, 1 gigabit LAN Ethernet port, and of course your basic audio. Of course, so for you, if you wanna install your processor, so I'm just gonna get to the processor part. So I've got this. Hold on a second. Let me just open the box. So this is the processor I was able to get my hands on for, well, a good price anyways. So this is the Ryzen 5 2600X, a good option for anyone around. It gets 6 cores, 12 threads, and it can like boosts to 4.2 gigahertz. So if you want to install the CPU, you're gonna start, of course, by pressing your thumb on this latch, pushing it down, then pull it back and just pull it upward, and here you go. So then you're gonna grab your processor. You're gonna line this golden triangle with this triangle on here, and if you can't see it, you just have to see the way you see the socket is from the latch down, so you're gonna line up the writing of your processor with your sockets, how can I say this, like the way it's facing you. So you're gonna see the board like this way. So this is the latch part, so this is the ryzen writing, so it's gonna be writing like this. So yeah, this is how you're gonna do it. You're gonna of course see the triangle on the socket itself. So after installing your so then you're gonna install of course your memory. So I've got this lexar and of course and another Twinmoss DIMMs. So they are marked at 2066. I'm gonna overclock them at 3000. I tested it already, so it's a pretty stable overclock, and I would recommend actually getting somewhat slower RAM than what you want, and just lightly overclocking it, especially for these Ryzen 2600. So you don't need like a 3600 megahertz RAM. It will do just fine like this. So this is the Twinmoss one. So pretty much this thing had 2 heat sinks, so all I have to do is remove it from this one and some thermal pads and just stick it on this one. And yeah, because it was really running hot, especially with an overclock of 1.35 volts. So yeah, so you're gonna start by seeing this teeth and this latch and around here from what you can see. So you're gonna line them up, you're gonna open your RAM DIMM slots, and it's gonna line this thing up like this, and then you're gonna do the same thing here. So you can push from both sides, one side, whatever you can find comfortable. So I'm just gonna do both. You don't have to hear a click, you just have to make sure that this latch is closed, and don't over push on it. If you can feel a resistance, that means you're doing something wrong. Too much of a resistance anyways. So like this, let's say that you're mistaken and you got it like this. If you push too much, you might break the board. But if you like make sure that you're not mistaken, pull it back out and just check, then you just can without even that much of a resistance. So for your information, this build will not have a case. I have this old PS2 frame that I'll be using as my PS3 frame that I'll be using as my case. It was like my old PlayStation 3, so I thought, hey, what the hell, let's keep its spirit up, okay? So now you're gonna install your CPU cooler. I've got this. Yes, this is an Intel T400, but I was able to find a Hyper 100 cooler mounting bracket, so I was able to, well, you'll see. So yeah, you would go with let's say a a T400A, that's an I, okay? So if you can find that, go for it. So this is like the installed bracket. This is what I'll be using, this hooking thingies. I'm gonna hook it like this, and it's gonna be working just fine. I'm gonna follow these things and put them to the side. The only reason that I did not buy a case because my budget ran out and I could not afford one, so all I did was pretty much grab my old PlayStation 3 that was dead in the closet, pull it out, remove most of its part, and here I am. So this is the cooler. Of course, it's been used already because I told you this is me recycling my old cooler into my new build. So I'm just gonna have to wait a moment. I'm gonna put the camera on the side for you to be able to see how I'm installing it. Like this. Oh, it's thermal paste application. I'll show you that first. So what you're gonna do, either with a small little line or just a couple of them, just like this should be enough for AMD. Because if it was an Intel, we would have just like that. That really hurts. finished installing our cooler. It's pretty sturdy on there. You can like lift the board from it. No worries. It's perfectly safe. Then you're gonna put on your, of course, CPU fan. It will not be the most beautiful looking build, but build the best performing build of its price range. I installed the fan incorrectly. Go even lower. There we go. Now we're talking. So it's gonna be pulling air through the heatsink and out here. It won't affect the performance that much. You'll be like getting like maybe a 3 to 4 degrees loss when it comes to cooling, but from what you'll be able to see, I'm gonna be running this thing at its lowest RPM and it's gonna still be doing a better job. A good job anyways. So now I'm gonna get the part when I install this on my pseudo case over there. So yeah, I've got these fans for cheap. Alright, my SATA connections. So I'm gonna prep up my case, then I'm gonna come back. And I'm back, I just set up everything. So this is like gonna be my fan controller for, of course, my fans. Of course, my graphics card fan has a dead fan, so not now. So for the CPU fan thing, I just want to mention, if you can like get one of these stock AMD coolers with the copper block, if you like bought the CPU brand new, it will come with it. These CPU fans are really good, not for overclocking, just for basic use, and you're gonna see like it'll just do you fine if you get one of these. It will function just fine. Unlike Intel Pro CPU coolers, they are bad. AMD coolers, they are good. So this will have like a copper, well, slug, I say. So it's gonna be running you just fine. It won't be like that quiet, but it won't be that loud in comparison with the Intel stock ones. So just FYI, of course, before I finish up my video. So I'm just gonna put this thing on here. So I'm back. So just gonna finish installing it on my pseudo case, anyways, and let's see if it's focusing. So after that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your PMW fan header. So it's gonna be something like this, and you're gonna find your CPU fan. I don't know, plug or whatever you want to call it. So you're just gonna plug it like this because it's a one-way. You wanna make sure that this teeth is with this latch over here, and boom, you got yourself. I'm just gonna, and you wanna just gonna tuck it like, I wanna like tuck it like over here. Chuck it in here. There we go. Okay, boom, finished. Well, if this was an APU build, then you would have just unplugged in your everything. So I'm gonna put it in its place. It's gonna be sitting in here on my desk. So I'm gonna grab my power supply. This is a Cooler Master MWE 450 watt power supply. This is like the best option for a budget option. It has like a 400 watt peak power on its how could I say this, 12 volt rail. It's gonna 80 plus certification. This is a really good power supply. If you can get your hands on one of these, it's gonna run you for really cheap, and you're gonna use it pretty much on everything. This thing can run a GTX 1080, so it's gonna pretty much run anything like a GTX 1060 or whatever you have, whatever you can find right now. Actually, this thing should probably run it just fine, no problems. So no worries on that part. I just cable manage these things through this hole. So you're gonna grab your 24 pin connector. It's gonna look something like this. You're gonna see your 24 pin connector on your motherboard. Sorry, I live in an Arabic Muslim nation, so it's outside of my control. And yeah, so you're gonna see this little hatch over here. So you're gonna push it until it just hears a faint click, or you're just gonna see that it's all the way in. And of course, for your 4-pin connector, there are two kinds of 4-pin connectors. There's your GPU 8-pin connector, and there is your CPU. So this is an 8-pin. So the way you're gonna know the difference, because this thing splits in half. This one splits to 6 and plus 2. 6 plus 2. This one, as you can see here, it can split in half. So you're gonna see the hatch on here is just the same as, of course, your 24-pin connector. And you're just gonna plug it in a way that this hook lines up with this. I'm just gonna put it in there just like this. Oh, there was a click. This time anyways. So now you're gonna get your, of course, graphics card. You're gonna do your PCIe plugin, because later on it's gonna be really SATA plugins later on is gonna be really hard to get to it, especially if you have like a long graphics card. So I'm just gonna do it over. So I'm just gonna do, of course, I'm back. I just finished plugging or wiring all of my SATA connectors. So yeah, SATA data ones. So the way you're gonna install it on your drive is you're gonna see this. How can I say this? It's gonna be the same way you did with your motherboard. Just gonna boom. So I'm gonna grab my SATA SSD. It's gonna be a 2.5-inch drive, normal one. Look, this is like a cheap AliExpress SATA SSD, but if you're just gonna have, this is gonna like be my basic boot drive, so I don't worry about the cashless or the cashless or whatever. So this is the board. This is the SSD I went with. It's a XryDisk 128 gigabytes SSD with 6 gigabit transfer rate. This is like the perfect thing for like throwing a Windows installation. You're done with it, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. It is a really good, how can I say this, in a drive, and yeah, you can just, oh shit, I must have dropped it. And even if I drop it, what's the worst that can happen? So for this one, you can like avoid having things on it, just boot from it, and everything else do it on other hard drives, from which you can see I have a lot of these. So you're gonna plug it in and just gonna throw it somewhere. I don't have to like tape it or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about anything. I really like the packaging on this thing, although it doesn't require that much packaging. And the metal, it is a metal casing to make it at least look expensive, I think. There we go. So now I'm gonna plug in the SATA power, and we're gonna be done. Hopefully, anyways. Wait a minute. There we go. So now you're gonna plug in your SATA power. It's gonna be this long connector, as you can see. Then you're gonna plug it in here. It's gonna be also one way to plug it in, as you can see. So, just like the SATA data, he's gonna have these latch. So you're gonna plug it in and go in there. It's a one-way plug, unlike. There we go. So I'm just gonna finish plugging everything up, then I'm gonna be back. So welcome back. So as you can see, I did some somewhat decent cable management. I just chucked in my SSD between my power supply and drive. So yeah, that is my graphics card, the GTX 1080 gigabyte mini version. Well, it had a dead fan when I got it, so that's why I got it for cheap. So I went out, I got this Molex connected fan that has really high, how can I say this, RPM, of course. This is a thermal take fan, so yeah, it's a pretty good fan. Just plug it in with some zip ties and everything. So just gonna remove the shieldings. What you can see. So now you're gonna see your PCIe slot. You're gonna line it up with like this, as from what you can see, and you're gonna just drop it in there. Is from what you can see. Just boop. There you go. Now you're done. Oh, forgot to plug in. You're better off to plug in your front panel connectors first. I have a couple of them. I salvaged them from a case. I got a USB 3, USB 2, audio, and all of these things. Of your HD audio. I do not know what this plug is for, the AC97. I'm just gonna chug it in here because I really don't know what it's there for. And of course, if you have like a somewhat modern case, you're gonna have this blue plug. This is the USB 3.0 plug. Just gonna plug it in here and just gonna, there we go. Boom, baby. So of course, if almost forgot, PCI connection. Either you might get a 6-pin, an 8-pin, two 8-pins, one 8-pin and one 6-pin, or you may not have to plug in anything at all. So this is what I did pretty much. The one I'm going to be using is this one, the primary. So the secondary one is just zip tied it here. So you're gonna put them like this, throw them in here. Of course I throw in a couple of fans because to keep things cool, especially my graphics card backplate, because I'm going to be doing some light overclock on this thing. And of course I put this other fan on the drives to keep them cool, because it's one of the few things that can kill your drive other than from shock. Water is heat. Heat can and will kill your hard drive. So throw in a cheap low RPM fan, you're gonna be okay for ages. Trust me. This is how your drive is gonna survive. So I'm here at the BIOS, from what you can see. Everything is fine, so I'm gonna do some certain things. First of all, I'm gonna OC my memory, 3000, modify it, so I'm gonna go 16, 18, oops, sorry, shit. Okay, 18, and I'll go with 35 will do. Yeah, this is pretty much a really stable overclock, so I'm going to go to advanced voltage. I'm going to come here to DRAM voltage. I'm going to put it 1.35. Boom, done. And yeah, it's loud right now because I haven't reconfigured the fans. So if I come to smart fan, so this is like my, I'm going to set it to silent. So I want it like to ramp up until it's like really hot. So PMW and enabled. Oh yeah, before. What you can see, it's a really quiet system if like configure the fans correctly as always. So yeah, all of my boot drives are being detected. I think, yep, I'm gonna have to change this one because I don't need this 250 drive. So I'm gonna switch it around with the other 320 gig. So yeah, this was pretty much it for my video. Everything's just fine, I guess. And yeah, as all of these are my settings, if you like wanna do the same. I'm just gonna leave the CPU to turbo on its own, because if it's the CPU is cool enough, it will turbo on its own to like 4 gigahertz, sometimes even reaching to 4.1 maximum, and even 4.2 I once saw it at the light game. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and hope you like, share, and subscribe, and bye bye. Of course I'm gonna drop some benchmarks later on, not now anyways.